Good afternoon. Welcome to another exciting edition of Reading with Mr. Eble. So we're going to continue on with Watchdog. Today we're going to be reading chapters 13 to 16. So a couple short chapters in there, so we'll get through a couple chapters on Watchdog. So here we go. So thanks for tuning on in. Chapter 13. They stopped to rest in the overhang in front of a Wendy's. It was pouring. Vic was soaked down to his socks. "Where are we going?" Tara asked. "Back to the apartment where we slept last night." Tara grabbed his arm. "No, we can't go there." She was right. They wouldn't be safe once the rough characters squatting in that abandoned building realized Daisy wasn't there to protect them. They were back where they'd started when Mom died. Nowhere to go, no one to turn to. Back to the Salvation Army, then. Vic felt a surge of dread at the thought of going back to that shelter, packed with men smoking cigarettes, stealing, and fighting. Tara grabbed Vic's hand and dug her fingers in until it hurt. "That place is horrible. I don't want to go back there. Let's go back to the church. Please." Without Daisy? Torch would beat Vic to a pulp for some of the snide comments he'd made. "You want her to fart jingle bells while she works?" "No, that's a bad idea." "We'll find somewhere new," Vic said. "Another roof. We can hide there until things settle down." "No." Tara let her legs drop from under her so Vic was supporting all her weight. "No, not another roof. We can't go back to the church. They don't want us without Daisy." "They do want us. Yes, they do," she said. She dropped to the ground, her hands balled into fists and eyes squeezed shut. "They do." She was going into complete meltdown mode. Vic couldn't blame her. His windpipe felt like it was closing by the second, each breath making a familiar squeal. His inhaler was in that apartment. He'd been stupid not to carry it with him at all times. They weren't back to where they'd been when Mom died. They were much, much worse off than that. Back then, they didn't have Miss Alba to worry about. Vic leaned against the big window of the Wendy's and slid down until he was sitting next to Tara, who was screaming and thrashing. He thought he should cradle her head so she didn't hit it on the concrete, but he didn't have the strength, just didn't have the strength to reach that far. He was done. He had nothing left. 4 teenage girls came out of Wendy's. They stared at Tara, or maybe at Vic. He looked over his shoulder and saw others inside the restaurant gawking at them. He closed his eyes. "Please help us. Somebody please help us." One of the teenage girls set her french fries beside Vic before heading off. The rain kept pouring down. Tara went on screaming. Vic kept his eyes closed, wanting his mom to come and take care of him. What he could give for one hug from her, a word of encouragement whispered in his ear. The phone in his back pocket rang. Vic had forgotten about it, and suddenly realized Miss Alba might be tracking them with it. He pulled it from his pocket. The screen immediately expanded to show Miss Alba walking briskly, with Stripe trailing behind her, holding an umbrella over her head. "Now you've got nothing to bargain with, nothing to protect you, and I'm angry. Good decision to turn down my offer?" He waited Vic to answer. He kept his mouth shut. "I don't think so. I put a $2,000 bounty on each of you," she said. "You're both in bigger trouble than you can imagine." She disconnected. The street began to spin. Vic wasn't getting enough air. He felt like he was about to pass out. A bounty? A couple of 20-something guys with tattoos and shaved heads came out of the restaurant. Vic dropped his chin and stared at the pavement. They had to get off the streets, find somewhere to hide. Hands trembling, Vic snapped the phone card in half and tossed it to the ground. "Okay, we'll go to the church." Tara went on wailing. She hadn't heard him over the noise she was making. "We'll go to the church," he shouted. It was like shutting off a faucet. She stopped immediately and then sprang up from the pavement. "North will be so happy to see me," she said. He probably would. The rest of them, not so much. Chapter 14. Tara knocked on the door. Vic leaned against the wall, his breath coming in a tight squeal. "Who is it?" It was Rando. "Tara and Vic," Tara called. There was a sharp bang on the door from the inside. "You've got to be kidding me. Now you show up? Get lost." "Get out of the way." It was East's voice this time. "Move, out of the way." Locks clicked, bars slid free, the door opened a few inches. "All but put a price on your heads. Word is spreading online." "I know, all but called to tell me," Vic said. The door opened wider. East took his arm. "Come on." "No." Rando got between them and blocked the door. Torch, who was standing right behind Rando, said, "They're as good as dead. From the way he's breathing, Vic there sounds like he may beat the bounty hunters to it. You bring them in here and Alba finds out, she'll put a contract on us. I'm not risking my neck because he screwed up." "Because you never screwed up?" East said. Torch poked his own chest. "This ain't about me." "We turned them away. They'll last about 2 hours," East said. "You know that." Torch spit on the floor, then wiped his mouth. That's their problem. Rando, who was still blocking the door, didn't say anything. This was exactly what Vic had expected. Bullies, that's all they were. East said I had you all wrong, that once I got to know you, I'd see what good guys you were. It was hard to speak with his lungs so tight. I knew Daisy was the only reason you wanted us to stay. That's why we didn't. He turned and took Tara's hand. Come on, let's get out of here. Where are we going? Tara asked. Just, let's go. Vic had no idea where to go, where to hide. East had said they wouldn't last 2 hours. He believed her. Hang on, Rando called after them. Vic kept walking down the hall and into the stairwell. He had nothing more to say to Rando. There were footsteps on the stairs behind them. Then Vic reached the chapel. Rando fell in step beside him. I'm not saying you're right about everything you just said, but maybe you have a point. Vic wanted to pick up his pace and leave Rando behind, but he couldn't walk any faster. He could barely breathe. You can crash for a couple days if you want. Tara slowed. You hear that? We can stay. No, they can't. Torch was following a few paces behind them. East and North were behind Torch. It was sort of like a parade, only lamer, and no one was smiling. East is right, Rando said. We turn them away, we might as well shoot them ourselves. I don't want that on my head. You take them in and you won't have a head. Vic pulled Tara along, steering her toward the big double doors that led to the street. He could hear the rain outside. It sounded like applause. Rando grabbed Vic's shoulder and twisted him around so they were facing each other. He narrowed his eyes. If you go out there, your sister's as good as dead. Don't be an idiot. That's just what I was thinking, Tara said. Vic, don't be an idiot. It was hard to think straight when he couldn't breathe. There's no getting around it. He was having a full-blown asthma attack. He squeezed his eyes shut and tried to focus. He kept seeing Daisy, dragging her front end off that bridge. It was like he'd lost another family member. Tara pried her hand loose from his. Well, I'm staying. If you don't want to, fine. They stay, I go, Torch said. I take my equipment with me. Rando turned to Torch. Come on, man, don't be a rat bag. The word seemed to take some air out of Torch. He turned his head, spit, and then raised his gaze to give Vic a withering look. If anything happens to either of my friends because of this, I'll collect that bounty myself. They paraded back to the basement, this time with East leading the way. She looked at her phone as she walked. All but his 50 people dragging the river. They have nets across it every couple of blocks. That meant they hadn't found Daisy. Not yet, anyway. North fell in the step beside Tara. I'm sorry Daisy died. I cried when I heard. Thanks. She liked you a lot. In the basement, East sank into the mattress beside little North. Now, tell us how Daisy could do all those amazing things. I'll tell you. Tara looked at Vic. I found the chip, so I get to tell them. Vic shrugged. Evidently, Tara thought telling them was some sort of special treat. He sat on the floor and leaned up against the wall, trying to breathe. I found this chip in the dump, a special chip like nothing I've ever seen. I checked out the programming on my handheld, and even I couldn't follow it. That's why Alba was searching the dump, Vic added. How did Alba's crew make something like that? Rando asked. They didn't, dummy, Tara said. If they made it, they wouldn't want it back so bad, because they would just make another one. So they stole it, he said. They were going to reverse engineer it and make more, only someone accidentally tossed it in the trash. Who'd they steal it from? Rando asked. Had to be some major tech company. Vic had been trying to figure out what the chip was since he found out about it. Daisy had been like no other robot he'd ever seen. The chip was something very new. I know exactly what it is. Torch tapped on his phone. Do you? He sounded skeptical, or maybe just annoyed because Torch had made such a big deal about Vic and Tara staying. Why don't you fill us in there, Sherlock? Torch expanded his screen so they could all see. It's a discussion thread on a website called Military Tech Underground. The heading was, Military Testing New AI Soldier. If you're in the business of building weapons, it helps to keep tabs on what the big boys are up to. Torch tapped his temple. Gives you new ideas. He read the discussion thread out loud, stumbling on some of the bigger words. The military had been using robot soldiers for a decade. They had to be embedded in human platoons because, like all robots, they were stupid. There were rumors that a new generation of artificial soldiers was being tested. They could carry out missions independently. Vic tried to imagine an entire platoon of robots. Robots led by other robots. It was a scary thought. So Daisy was a soldier? Tara choked up and started to cry again. Vic choked back tears of his own. There was no way he was going to cry in front of these guys. That's why she was such a good fighter, Torch said. That's what she was programmed to do, plus repair herself if she got damaged in the field. So now they had a good guess about where Daisy came from. What good was that? She was gone. A wave of despair rolled over Vic. How were they going to survive this? They couldn't hide in this basement forever. As soon as they showed their faces on the street, they were dead. He felt like he was breathing through a straw. He needed his inhaler. He looked at East. I have to go to the place where we stayed last night. There's medicine there I need. Yeah, you don't sound so good, East said. Rando stood. I'll get it. Where is this place? Vic started to answer and realized he didn't know. He thought he could walk to the neighborhood, maybe the right street. But he didn't pay attention to where the building was because Daisy knew, and she was always with them. I don't know. I'd know it if I saw it. Guess I have to go myself. I'll go with you. Rando grabbed a ratty gray jacket with a hood and tossed it to Vic. Put this on and keep your head down. Hopefully, no one will recognize you in the dark. They walked the first few blocks in silence. It was hard for Vic to talk. Plus, he didn't have anything to say to Rando. Rando finally broke the silence. You still pissed off about the fire escape? He paused to take a wheezing breath. Like to keep to myself. I appreciate you letting us stay and everything. Walking was making it even harder to catch his breath. I just feel more comfortable being on my own. Rando nodded. I can respect that. They went back to walking in silence, but Vic felt like he needed to say something. Rando had made an effort, now it was on Vic. Where'd you learn to make watchdogs? Rando looked up to the night sky, as if the answer was written in the stars. Mercy Home for Boys and Girls, vocational training in robotics repair. They wanted you to have a way to make a living when you left. When did you leave? Rando turned his head and spit in a puddle. 11. The city cut the funding. One Friday, the lady in charge called an assembly and told us we could stay if we wanted. But the power was going to be cut on Saturday, and it wasn't coming back. And neither was she. Seems like we all got kicked out of somewhere. East's own parents kicked her out. Is that what she told you? Rando asked. The words startled Vic. Yeah, why? Nothing. Rando pointed his flashlight. Do any of these buildings look familiar? In the third tenement building they tried, Vic recognized an empty, torn-open suitcase they had to step around to climb the stairs. This is it. They hurried to the third floor, tossed Vic and Tara's stuff into their backpacks, sitting empty by the door, and were out of the apartment in less than 5 minutes. On the staircase, Vic took a hit from his inhaler. Almost immediately, his chest loosened and his windpipe relaxed. He should have asked Daisy to get him more medicine, instead of taking a ride on the Ferris wheel. Rando, who was ahead of Vic, stopped halfway down the last flight of stairs. A guy was standing at the bottom, holding a length of rope. He was in his 20s, with a long ponytail poking through the back of a Cubs cap. Vic's throat closed right back up. I'm going to need you to move clear, Rando, the guy said. Rando stayed where he was. You really taking Alba's side in this, Pete? I'm not taking anyone's side. You want to pay me $2,100 to walk away? I'm happy to do business with you. You know I don't got $2,100. That's why you need to move clear. Vic wanted to turn and run as fast as he could back up the stairs. He knew that was a bad idea, that he was safer staying close to Rando. It was hard to stand there. Alba ain't from around here, Rando said. She's from California or Florida or someplace like that. She comes walking into our neighborhood and wants to take over. What are you going to do about it? Help her? I'm done talking, Rando. You better stand clear. Rando talked faster. Don't try to act like it's all just business, like one side's as good as another, because you know that ain't how it is. This kid took on Alba right in the street in broad daylight. I know you heard about that, and he hurt her bad, which is more than either of us can say. He's a hero. He's the good guy. You really want to hurt the good guy? He pointed at Pete. You know what that makes you, if you hurt the good guy? It makes you the bad guy. Pete lowered his gaze a few inches and then wiped his mouth. Don't take her blood money, Rando said. Pete cursed. He's already dead. You know that, right? It's just going to be someone else who gets him. They can't get him if he's not here. You better hurry then and get on the bus. Thanks, Pete. I owe you one. Yeah, some 14-year-old punk owes me one. Lucky me. Pete pushed the front door open and disappeared. Vic sat on the stairs, his legs rubbery. Rando sat a few steps below Vic. He burst out laughing. I can't believe I talked him out of it. I can't believe you tried. Still chuckling with relief, Rando said, my heart was going like crazy. I don't get it. Why don't you just move out of the way and let him have me? Surprised, Rando spun to look at Vic. What would I have told your sister when I got back? Vic didn't know what to say. It had been a long time since anyone stood up for him, and the last person in the world he expected to was Rando. Well, except for Torch. Rando stood and ran his hand over his shaved head. Let's get out of here before he changes his mind. Yeah, Vic stood, his legs still shaking. Thanks. Thanks for saving my life. Yeah, Rando said like it was no big thing. Chapter 15. Vic checked on Tara, who was sitting in a pew, her head on her knees, her arms wrapped around her head. He went and sat beside her. "I miss her so much," Tara said. Vic put his arm across her shoulders as she started to cry again. "Me too." He pictured Daisy loping around this chapel with North on her back like she was a steel pony. She'd only been a machine, Vic knew that, but losing her hurt worse than he would ever have imagined. It wasn't just that Daisy had been their protector. She'd been smart, like a person. She'd known what was going on. He watched North run along the balcony of the chapel, disappearing behind blue rafters, reappearing in front of cracked and broken stained glass windows, laughing as if he didn't have a care in the world. Vic worried that the balcony wasn't stable, that North might get hurt. It was still safer than playing outside, though. Speaking of which, someone had left one of the big front doors open a crack. Anyone walking by could spot them through the crack. Vic pushed himself to his feet. "Be right back." Rando must have left it open when he went to buy food from the convenience store. Vic could picture him trying to kick it closed with his hands full of bags, and not quite making it. Ever since Rando stood between Vic and that guy with the rope 3 days ago, Vic had been trying to figure him out. He'd laughed while scaring a crying girl, then risked his life to save a kid he barely knew. All Vic could think was, Torch had been the one banging on the fire escape, and Rando laughed along because sometimes you just went along with your friends, even if you didn't agree with what they were doing. Vic slowed as he approached the open door. There was something on the ground, jammed in the doorway. Vic thought it was a brick, or a piece of trash, but as he got closer, he saw it was caked in dried and cracking mud, and it was moving. It was trying to claw its way through the door. It had to be a rat, Vic realized, disgusted. He took a step back as the door creaked open another inch. The thing dragged itself inside, claws digging into the filthy tile floor. Vic studied the thing's mangled back half. It was no rat. "Tara?" He stood frozen, afraid that if he moved, he'd see it was just a rat after all. That his wishful thinking had created an illusion. Tara stood up from her pew. "What?" Vic pointed across the vestibule, where a mangled, mud-covered Daisy was dragging herself toward them. Tara shrieked. She raced to Daisy, lifted her gently, and carried her broken body in cupped hands. "She's alive," she breathed. And we'll stop there. We'll read chapter 16 starting tomorrow. But thank you for joining us. We'll post this up on our YouTube channel as well, but we'll keep on going again same time tomorrow at noon. I keep on going with Watchdog. But y'all have a great day. Be safe. Take care of one another. And remember, Rangers of the way.